Hey space readers, welcome to 2025. I wanted my first video back on this channel to be about all the books that I read in 2024. I made a little slideshow presentation to show you guys at least what the books looked like, the covers and everything, just because I literally only have like one of the actual physical books with me. And that's just because I'm a firm believer in you gotta keep around whatever makes you happiest, and if it doesn't make you the absolute happiest, then why is it in your life? No spoilers, but I'll be giving a brief summary of what's happening in the book, how I stumbled across the book, and my review and a star rating of how I felt about the book. 1 star is going to be, what was that? Why did I read this? This is like the absolute worst thing I ever read on the planet. 2 stars, it's gonna be, it was bad, but it wasn't the absolute worst book ever. 3 stars, it means the book was decent. 4 stars, it means that it was really good and I really enjoyed it, but there was just one thing missing that I can't put my finger on. If it's an absolute 5 stars, it was a really good read. It was absolutely phenomenal. Everything was perfect and I wouldn't change a single thing. Let's get into it. So the first book that I've read in 2024 is The Infinite Noise by Lauren Shippen. The main character, Caleb, is a football player who notices he has extreme empathy. He's so empathetic to the point that he can feel like everybody's emotions around him. So he starts to get like really close to his classmate Adam, and it's more like he has to learn how to develop his like powers of extreme empathy while also trying to juggle a romantic relationship. I actually stumbled on this book on accident because I thought that the second book was really cool, and I had already read everything about the second book in 2023 and I really disliked it. I bought this one because I was like, oh, well, that was the second one, so maybe it's only like this because of the first one. So I did end up reading this one just because I wanted to see how did this connect to the second one. Out of all of the Bright Session series novels, I really think that this one is the best. I feel like it kind of gives the writer a clean slate to like give you an introductory of what they're trying to tell you and how they convey their story and their worlds. But altogether, it was only at 3 stars because I thought it was a decent book, but I feel like the way it trails with the series kind of makes me feel like everything else is downhill. The second book I read was The Selection by Kiera Cass. This book is set in a dystopian world full of rankings and systems, basically one being poverty level, and I believe it was 4 or 5 that was meaning like upper class, kings and queens and everything. So in this world, there's a selection of girls, about 35 of them, who get selected to see if they'll be the one to marry the prince. They have to go through these different trials and eliminations, like getting your photo taken to be submitted, and then moving into his house, getting proper etiquette training and everything like that. The main character, America, I know, her name was already tripping me up. Why is her name America Singer? America Singer basically falls in love with this boy who's like a class below her. I believe she isn't in poverty. She's like doing, I guess, a little bit more decent, but he's like crumbs level. Her mom forces her to sign up for the selection even though she doesn't want to, and she's smiling really hard in her photo that gets taken because she thinks that she's still gonna end up marrying her poverty boyfriend. And whenever the prince sees the picture of her smiling and everything, he thinks that she's really pretty. So she gets drawn into the selection system. Now, this book, y'all, it was amazing. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, it was something like unlocked in me that just loved this book. And I really want to continue the series when I get around to it. But it was just great. I like loved every bit of it. Like, it was honestly a 4-star rating. I feel like some of the stuff like moved a little too slow for me, but I did like the characters. I liked the prince. I liked her poverty-stricken boyfriend. I liked her at some points. I will say, but some of the stuff was just like, girl, just I was in a book group on Discord with a whole bunch of other girls like all around the US, and it was really cool. I stumbled across this group randomly on Lemonade, and we were all like, hey, we like to read, but we don't have people to read with, so we would like vote for books to read every month together and like have a whole discussion board about it. It was really awesome, and I really hope that like maybe one day I can like stumble across another one, but yeah, it ended pretty shortly, so it sucked. But it was a really cool way to find out about this book in this series and meet a few people that also read. Third book that I read this year was Oh My Goth by Genna Showalter. I really hope I'm saying her name right. The main character, Jade, is alternative in a world full of normies. She has always been judged about everything she does, about everything she is, and nobody gets along with her except for a new boy who comes into the school and he's the exact same. He's emo just like her, and now everybody likes him and they don't like her. So one day her like stepsister is like being mean to her and everything, and she's like, I wish you could step in my shoes and see how it is, because you're Miss Popular and I'm Miss Edgy, so I wish that you could be in my shoes and see how everything is. And the next day when she wakes up, she's in a world where everybody is just like her. Everybody's alternative, everybody's praising her, she's the most popular goth girl on the block, and she realizes this is why people should be different. This is why people should have their own things going and everybody shouldn't be the same. I thought that I would like it a lot more than I did, but it was just, the writing was very hard to understand. A lot of the pieces of the story to me just weren't as interesting as I thought they could be or captivating. Found it in my neighborhood book barn that somebody placed in there, and I was like, okay, I'll just give it a try. I mean, I didn't buy it. I just want to read something quick. So yeah, it was not too good. 1 star, 1 star. The next book I read was Wilder Girls by Rory Power. So there's this private school that was for girls on an island, and they're all trying to find a way off of it. They do things that they have to use to take care of each other that they've been doing since the quarantine, which is like getting a mysterious package of food and everything, and then like having to handle other girls who turn into like even worse monsters than them. This is the first time that I've gotten into a book that has gore in it, and I just don't know how to feel about it because it kind of took me for a surprise, because I wasn't expecting this book to go there, especially based on like the title and like the goal of the book. I just didn't expect it to be gore in it, so it kind of like made me a little jumpy, but I did finish it. Ended up giving the book a 3 stars. I saw the front cover of the book and I really liked the art style. Like, it was very captivating, but I don't think I knew exactly what I was getting into. So the 7th book I read was Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. Chris Voss is an FBI negotiator who is retired, I believe, and he talks about all of the strategies that he would use in interrogations and negotiations to talk about how these things can help us in real life. I personally liked this book just because it was my first self-help book that I've ever read, and I liked that he mixes a lot of like actual situations that have happened in cases with things that happen in everyday life. And it was just really cool to see like how someone can take like a fresh perspective on, this is what I used for my job and this is how I handled like deadly situations, to maybe you're negotiating a price about something, or maybe you're like wanting to get a raise or something in your life. Like, I just thought that was a really cool way to look about life. I'll give this 3 stars. Even though it was my first self-help book, I just think that some of the stories were a little long. Like, I get to where the point that it was getting, but sometimes it was more story-like than actual advice. The 8th book I read this year was Some Faraway Place by Lauren Shippen. The girl, Rose, wakes up one day and she realizes that she can step into people's dreams. So she does this because she's able to step into her brother's dreams, and she also has a family full of other people that have superpowers. They all have powers, and her powers are like dream diving. So her family ends up like suggesting that she go to like this research center to get studied on dream diving so she doesn't like freak out so much or feel so tired. And that's basically where the story continues. I gave this book a 2 stars just because I really tried to give the whole Bright Session novels a chance, but I just really I understand not every book is going to be something great or like some good ending, but it's just like, if you honestly know that you have like the worst character ever, stop wrapping everything around this character. Why does everything keep coming back to this character? Like, it's literally what drained like the first book, the second book, and now it's like drained the third book for me from the series. So I just think I'm no longer gonna read this author, but to each their own. I thought I'd be into it because of, you know, the superpower aspects, everything that makes up that, but I just wasn't rocking with it. The 9th book I read was The Good Girls by Claire Eliza Bartlett. There was a murder that happened in the school of one of the head valedictorians, and there are 3 main suspects: a cheerleader, a partier, and the girl that would be the next valedictorian. The story follows the girl that would be the next valedictorian, Avery, and basically it talks about like her friendship and relations to the other 2 people that are suspects, and you end up like following the mystery of finding out who the actual killer of the girl would be. The writing was kind of slow to me, just because it was like kind of a lot of interrogation scenes between like who could do it, and you're just like kind of looking into all the pieces and clues of what the story is. So 3 stars. It was decent, a decent read. I would read another book by this author. I just didn't feel significantly attached to it. 10th book I read last year was Broken Rules by K.L. Walher. The story follows Meredith Fox, and she's coming to her family's farm for a wedding, I believe for her cousin's wedding, and she just got over the loss of her sister. She's still actively grieving and everything. This is something that happened a year ago, and she's really trying to heal while spending time with her family. So there's this boy that she meets, and he is the groom's brother, and she ends up really liking him. So the story is about their young developing love story, all while in the summer on her grandparents' farm, and it is the absolute cutest thing ever. I give this book 5 stars just because it was so amazing. Like, literally the details about everything on the farm, everything about like what the characters are doing. It goes in detail about like everybody's personality, and there's so many just like lovely characters, like you feel like they're your actual family. This book was an absolute 5 stars, blew me out of the water, and it was the perfect read for the summer. I believe that I found this book when I was walking around Target, and the cover just really stood out to me. I loved the blue and pink and just how everything looks, and it was amazing. Like, I recommend that book to like everybody for their next summer read, or honestly, even just like a pick-me-up romance read if you're really heavy into the romance genre. The 11th book was The Undead Girl Gang by Lily Anderson. This book follows a teenage witch named Mila, and she's grieving the loss of her best friend, who had died very randomly and suspiciously. So she uses her witchy powers and everything, and she's trying to like figure out who the killer of her best friend is. So she does this magical incantation to summon up her dead best friend and 2 of the other recently deceased girls. And together, they all work together to find out who is the killer and what happened to all of them. I really loved everything about this book. The characters were super witty and funny. I just loved the pacing. It never felt like we were just waiting for something to happen in the book. It just really all flew together very nicely. I just felt like it was missing something towards one point. Like, I feel like there was something missing that would have put the cherry on top for me. I can't put my finger on it. So I gave it a 4 stars. This was another book that was floating around in my Apple Books that I just hadn't got the time to get around to, but I'm really happy I checked it out, and I would read something that's from the author again if I stumble upon it. Book number 12 is The Upside of Unrequited by Becky Adultery. The 17-year-old girl Molly and her sister Cassie. And Molly has always been like a serial crusher. She's always had crushes on multiple boys because of what they look like or something about them, but she's never actually been in a relationship, never even kissed, barely even held hands. But her sister is like an advanced level dating expert. She's dated multiple people. She's gone out of the ballpark, done all of the things. And this is just her story about a love triangle that she was in. So she was in a love triangle with her sister's girlfriend's best friend, who was like this super hot guy who she thinks likes her and everything. And then she also gets a new job at like this little, I don't know how to explain what it is. It's like a little mom and pop shop where they make things. And it's this boy that she works with who's not conventionally attractive. He's a little on the heavier set like she is, but she likes him as well. So it's kind of navigating who she'll choose. Will she choose the hot guy that everybody wants her to be with, or will she choose the soft, lovable guy that works with her? I could not stop laughing at a few things that was said. It felt like you're really there with the characters, like you were really in this like teenage joking around moment, and I really liked it. So I ended up giving it a 4 stars. I just felt like some of the parts got a little too gushy for me, or some parts I was kind of like, wow, this is like so teenage romance, but it was good. The next book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a F by Mark Manson. This is a really good book to read for this time in my life. I'm going to turn 25 this year, and so it's like navigating those processes that you need to take in. So it's about embracing failure, using it to change, how to value what to choose and what's most important in your life, and just about embracing those things that you have values on, stuff that you're putting your time and energy to. And it's exactly what I talk about on this channel, so I felt like it was a perfect read at the time. Gave this book a 5 stars in the self-help category just because I feel like a lot of people need to read it, especially a lot of people that are in their 20s or even 30s, like that just feel like you're not in your calling or you're not in your best self yet, and you really just need to push yourself forward. I ended up finding that book just floating around in my Apple Books as well. I became curious about it because I see it all the time in my Target, and so I ended up just buying it on Apple Books because I'd wanted to read it for a long time. I'd seen it and I just kept saying, this would be a really good book, and I just had got around to it last year. The next book is Hot Dog Girl by Jennifer Dawn. Kind of can get cast or like try to choose who you want to aim for, like choose if you want to be one of the princesses, one of the divers, one of the food workers, one of the game operators. And every time she auditions to be one of the casting characters for the last 2 years, she's gotten Hot Dog Girl. So she's known as Hot Dog Girl. She always wears the big hot dog suit, running around the hot dog stand and everything like that. And she has this really big crush on this guy that's there, and she's also trying to help her best friend like find a girl to date. So it's a really cute like love story, especially because the guy she likes already has a girlfriend. So it's like a lot of jealousy, cattiness, like everything about the summer that was just perfect. And the big twist of that book is just that like the place she's working at, the carnival, the fair, is closing down. So they're also actively trying to raise money and everything for it while she's going through all these life situations with her parents, with her love life, and with her favorite place in the world that she would go to every summer and have a summer job at is closing. It was just giving like cute teenager drama and vibes and everything. So personally, I gave it a 4 stars. I felt like there was definitely something missing in all the other characters and just the way the kind of world building could have been a little deeper, but it was pretty okay. Surprisingly, the next book I have is actually the only physical book that I have. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lonnie Taylor. When I tell you, this book was so amazing. I absolutely love this book. I'm gonna tell you before I even tell you the summary, this was a 5 stars to me. In my heart, in my soul, I have to continue reading this series because I was so hooked. The main character, Karu, is a girl that's also an art school student. So nobody knows about her double life. She's lived in the life of fantasy, being raised by like this elephant guardian thing and having like this mystical world full of like the guy that's raising her is like a bone collector and like a seller and a merchant, and he raised her, and then also living the life of like a normal school girl, interacting with humans, doing all of this stuff, and no one knows like each world. So basically she was raised by these mythical things, and then she has to also live in the real world, and then one day all of the gates keep closing to this mythical world, so she can't get back to her father, but I can't talk about any more of it because it's gonna spoil. I just need somebody to check that book out because it is so good. Like, I love world building, and I feel like this was really like one of the big tastes of world building that I've seen done properly. The characters, the descriptions, the like adventure, the love, like it's everything I need. It's everything I needed. Oh, I just can't talk about that book and not get excited. The next book is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. This book is about a teenage boy who gets expelled, and he's basically trying to open his eyes about the world, about what he wants his life to be about and what he wants to do, while also thinking about his kid sister and how her watching him grow up could affect her and like make her not have everything that he wants. I have this book floating on my bookshelf over here forever. It was one of those just books that I kind of just liked because of how it looked. Like the horse and the carousel and like the orange and everything just looked like a really cool book to me, so that's why I got it. It didn't have like a back description on it. It just sort of was like a mirror front and back, so I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty interesting. It wasn't hooked. I didn't like the ending. I honestly didn't like anything. It was one of just those like, oh, like I really gotta trudge through this book so I can pick up something else kind of reads. It was something that I seen around that people had to do for readings, or people told me that they had to read, and that definitely makes sense because I did not like that book in the slightest. Give it a 2 stars. It made for a decent story, but it's definitely something I wouldn't return to. I believe that it did have a good lesson. It just wasn't my cup of tea at all. Behind the Net by Stephanie Archer. So Pippa just like moved in with her sister and everything, and she's looking for a job. She ends up getting a job as this hockey player's assistant because he's hiring. And basically the hockey player remembers that they went to high school together and everything. So basically they kind of have some funny aha moments, as in like, oh, you remember me? And then, you know, they have everything going on as far as remembering like this and that about each other and realizing that they love each other. And honestly, I really liked the characters and developments. I did find it very cheesy though, and also this is the first time that I read something going down in some books, like some stuff happening, and so I was like kind of thrown off just because I really don't expect that when I read romance. I guess I should now because it's like an adult book, so maybe it's like this or that going on, but it kind of just threw me for a loop because I really wasn't expecting it. But it was a 4 stars. There was something missing, or maybe it's just the overly cheesiness, because he gives her the nickname Songbird and he calls her that all the time because she likes to play guitar or whatever. And so I guess it was just the cheesiness for me. It was like too overly cheesy, but it was one of the last books I read just because it was winter and it's like a hockey winter themed book, so I thought it would be cute, and it was overly pretty cute. It was just kind of cringy, so 4 stars. The last book of the year is The Fake Out by Stephanie Archer again. I already had both of these books downloaded back to back, so I thought I should just knock out the series and read it together, or else I was gonna take forever to get around to it. Well, The Fake Out is about Pippa's sister, Hazel. So Hazel is like I forgot the exact title, but she's like a gym trainer, chiropractic for this hockey team that Jamie, Pippa's boyfriend, is on. So the series does kind of like follow that first one by still having those characters, but I like that it's not too overly focused on them. So Hazel is the trainer, and there's this really arrogant player that is best friends with Jamie from like a long time ago when they were younger growing up playing hockey, and his name's Rory. So Rory is hot-headed, braggadocious, and Hazel is a young little spitfire herself. Like, she's not gonna take none of your stuff. She is a dragon. Like, she is not gonna take none of your stuff, not gonna listen to none of that. So basically, whenever her ex-boyfriend, who is also a hockey player, happens to join the team and everything, Rory doesn't like that her ex keeps like being mean to her on all this. So Hazel and Rory divide a plan and they are gonna fake date until the season is over. The romance is so good. I loved it more than the first one, maybe just because of how everything was set up, because their first story is more of a sunshine and grumpy type of romance, and then this situation is like fake dating where it's like clearly obvious that the characters should be together, but like there's, you know, of course, everything in their mind, everything that they do holding them back. I also loved that it shared the perspective of still going back and forth from characters, except this one was more lucrative because while the first one was sort of like Pippa, 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 and then like Jamie, Jamie, Jamie in book one. This one was like literally back and forth. So it was like Hazel, Rory, Hazel, Rory. And I kind of liked that about it. I just saw more of my character, more of myself in Hazel. And that's what made me absolutely love this book. So yeah, I ended up just giving this book a 4 stars because it did, again, get cheesy towards the end. And also the bow chicka wow wow scenes did throw me off just because I was like, we could have, you know, but you know, if it's the writer and it's what she likes to do, go for it. But it was just a decent book in my opinion. But that concludes all of the books that I read in 2024. Thank you for watching till the end, and let me know what I should read next, or if you've checked out any of these books, what do you think about them? Anyways, thank you so much for watching my video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Later.